interruption. On Daf Zayin, we are about a third down the page. The line starts with the word as nefesh. Is that what you have? What do you have? No. The Ruach HaOdom, that's what we were up to. No, we went further. Or maybe, did you miss? No. We went further than that.
Last note I have is last says Chai. I have notes that
we didn't learn that yet. Okay. All right, that's fine. We have to start at a magical spot anyway. I think we went further. Okay. Well, we have it. The line starts with the word Chai. That's 10 lines from the top. You have it? Chai. So, coming to this question here, how is it that the oil comes down into the keli? Since that the inyan of oil is that oil is drawn to its source to go upwards, as it says, Ruach HaOdom is oil olamaylo. And we discussed this. The inyan was meant Ruach HaOdom oil olamaylo and Ruach HaBeima oil yaris lamato. I hope you have that. Okay, you want to say something on that? Ruach HaOdom oil olamaylo. Right, but as usual, I wanted to make it more palatable, more tangible. Remember how we explained it?
I remember you said that the natural location by Nika, that's what it is. So it's not like an acronym, but that's what its whole essence is. The essence is to go with Umayla.
Okay, but what?
You're Marshall about someone who's learning that the person who's learning something he doesn't want. Either he has the challenge, or the challenge is since I feel uncomfortable with this challenge, I'm just gonna sit back. It's not worth it for me to do that for the challenge. Or he has this great feeling that he just wants to break through no matter what's gonna happen. He wants to get through it. The idea of Ruach HaOdom knowledge is saying that a person wants to just break the barriers that are in front of him. And the mantra is the person just wants to sit back and doesn't want to deal with the challenges. He wants to sit. He just wants to stay under. He wants to go lower.
Right. This is what I'm looking for. We should understand all of these things. These are truly, they're talking about the nefesh, but they reflect themselves also in our lives. It's important that we can relate to them. That Ruach HaOdom Eilo L'Maylo means that when one has a challenge, or he's learning and he doesn't understand, there are two ways to resolve the problem. One is to draw it down and make it more physical, and the other is to raise it up and make it more spiritual, to rise above it and see it from a more spiritual perspective. Ruach HaOdom is Eilo L'Maylo. He's always seeking to see it from a higher perspective. What is its real meaning in terms of higher, of its source? Ruach HaBeima doesn't want to be bothered On the contrary, he feels that more solid is in the mato than Lamaila. I'll give you another illustration. I really want you should understand these things. Yesterday we spoke, if you remember, about this engineer who's building a building. And we pointed out that he's building a building. The actual process of building involves of putting bricks and all the material in a certain way and having them sitting together. What is the conclusion? What is the end result? The end result is a building that serves human beings. Not just the fact that he was able to show his mastership, that he's able to make a structure stand. Standing is not the end result. The end result is that human beings are using it, and it's being used for meaningful and valuable things. And he sees, the building comes to life. It's a totally different significance at that point. So, let us say, as he's in the process of putting the building up, and he has to make a decision. There's some obstacle, some difficulty. This difficulty can be solved by saying, okay, so let's make this room smaller. Or let's make draw it here, draw it there. And the building will stand. If he's concerned only that it stand, we can make it stand. But then he goes back and say, no, but that's not, my point is not that the building should stand. My point is that the building should be useful at the maximum. So then, instead of making it narrower, if it doesn't work this way, we have to make it broader, not narrower. Narrower is not a solution at all. Because you're making it stand, but you're destroying the whole purpose of the building. In other words, you have to, you have to look for what is its real meaning, what is the real purpose of things. This is Ruach HaOdom. He sees the spirit, he sees the meaning of things. Even in our little, on our level. So since that Ruach HaOdom is Eila Lamayla, and the Nefesh is really Ruach HaOdom, the Nefesh Olakis, is Eila Lamayla, how does the Nefesh come into the Guf? For the Nefesh to come into the Guf is a real descent. Because there wasn't much of a discussion about this, although there was, the fact that the Dibur and all, but I just want to introduce the singing. The Guf, the human being, represents a real paradox. You know what a paradox is? Two contradictory elements working in unison. On the one hand, he's got the spirit, the Ruach HaOdom, Eilo Lamayla. And he truly, then there's a Nefesh Olekis, there's a Nefesh that really perceives Elokus and is capable of perceiving Elokus. On the other hand, its perception of Elokus is limited to that which the brain, with the physical brain, is able to tolerate. Elokus is not physical. Not at all. The brain is not capable, even though it's the finest, it's the most sensitive of the organs in the body. But nevertheless, it's still a physical entity and is not capable of perceiving something of tolerating something that is totally devoid of any physical dimensions. It has to think in terms of breadth, width, and depth. It cannot think of something that has no dimensions. That's what we say, higher and lower. What's higher and lower in our perception? Higher and lower. Because there's no other way for us to think. So here, the nefesh, which is a lakus mamash, totally devoid of physicality, attaches itself to the brain, which is entirely physical. And the nefesh is now capable of understanding the lakus only at the level that the brain is able to tolerate. In other words, in a certain sense, defining a lakus at a physical level. So this is contrary entirely to the nature of the nefesh. In Mitzvah Hashem, as time goes on, we'll have a chance to speak more about what are the limits of physicality, and what is a lakus, how a lakus is totally devoid of physicality. But we understand that is definitely the case. So how is the nefesh connected to the guf? So he says that the nefesh connects to the guf. This is b'derech hechrech. It's something forces it. Do you remember what I explained on derech hechrech?
Yeah. I wrote it down, I don't remember.
Okay, listen. You know, the thing by witnesses. A witness is, it says mipiem v'lo mipiksovam. A witness has to testify what he remembers, not what he has a note reminding him. But the thing is that if he does have a note, and he reads the note, and the note actually reminds him, and then remembers from the note what happened, he's allowed to testify. So what's your testimony?
A half of the group is like Ma'afriyat that the neshama should come down, is that it's not in the neshama's nature, but its descent is it shows on the perception that the neshama has in the quality of what it can accomplish by descending below, or the quality of acting this thing out. I'm sorry. And alright, that's all I am.
Okay. All right. Huh?
The mila of the guf, the neshama sees that although it's not its territory, the body, but it can't control itself from coming to such a place because it sees how it's going to come uplifted through going through the center of the body.
Right. No, but okay, that's very good. I want a step before that. We say that the nefesh comes to the guf b'derech hechrech. This, what we are saying here, that the guf has a mila, this is the next step. The first step is, we say the neshama comes to the guf b'derech hechrech.
Question, how can it enliven it?
What?
How can it enliven it? How can it give life?
Right. What does it mean it comes b'derech hechrech? You put the neshama in b'derech hechrech, the neshama doesn't connect to the guf. What is the concept of making hechrech to the neshama? You take a guf, a human body, a human being, and you by force take him and move him from one place to the other. Okay. You moved him to the other place to the other. 1 second. There's a saying from the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov said, Mokim sheritzoyne shel odom shomhu. That where is the real person? In the place where his rotzen is, where he wants to be, that's where he actually is. In other words, a person can be here, but if his rotzen is really connected elsewhere, so his neshama, he's really there, not here. The fact that he's here, that's because his body is holding him here. But he, the person, the neshama, the nefesh is over there. So how can you be machriach a nefesh? How can you be machriach a nefesh? What does it mean, you machriach the nefesh?
You make it more.
Oh, machriach the nefesh means that there is, it's hepech tiva, it's negative, it's notzim. But it is forced by the power of a certain recognition. By the power of a certain recognition. Okay? Because it recognizes a certain thing, and that forces it to go into an area where it doesn't really want to go. Now here too we have to understand. If the nefesh recognizes that the goof has a big milah, like we're going to see, and because of this milah, the nefesh wants to be in the goof. So why do you call it hechrech?
Because it's nature.
Oh.
So what time is hechach? The being there is hechach for it. But it has a good
But-
purpose.
What?
It has a good purpose. It's willing to sacrifice its discomfort.
But it recognizes the milah of the goof. It's like I recognize the milah, so therefore I go there because I want. How is it hechrech? Hechrech means it's
No,
forced. Okay.
no, but it's just simple. It's always forced. Being there is it's a torture for neshama in the body. Like you say yourself, explain it yourself. Just a moment.
I'm not disputing. It says so in the minor.
Yeah.
I'm asking, how do we understand this statement? The nefesh recognizes the milah of the goof, and because of the milah of the goof, that's what the nefesh consents to be in the goof, and that is called hechrech. How do you call it hechrech if he consents to go there?
Because it could never become like a behemoth, or like to go to one. You said the ruach odom oil l'mayro, and not behemoth, God forbid, it would be that the shom will be behind the behemoth, and there will be no behemoth anymore. Because it's not like the Ruach Hashem, so that's why all the time. Because it's still ruach l'kim oil l'mayro.
Okay, but how do you balance this against the fact showing that the neshama does recognize the milah of this? In other words, it's not hechrech from external. It's in other words, the nefesh is machriach itself in a sense.
It's nation machriach. Nation of nefesh is machriach. It cannot be here.
No, that's the other way. I'm talking it's machriach. It's being in the goof is a hechrech. Who is machriach? The nefesh itself is machriach itself. Okay, so how do we call it hechrech?
It's like a gravitation, right? You know, you explained it last time, I think. The
No.
thing wants to fall downwards, right? So this is constant. This desire or this power is constant, and before it, when it's not fell yet down, until it's not attached to the ground, it's falling constantly.
Yeah.
So the same thing is in Shom, but just the Milo. Constantly. It's happening. It has to bring it this power of its what's his name? Its consent or resolve to be in a movie. It's a constant power which fights with the power which wants to get out of it.
So that's my question. I want you to understand. I'm not arguing with the point. This is what it says. Okay, so never try to answer unless you understand the question. The question is, how do you call it a hechrech when the nefesh itself recognizes that this is a good thing? And he wants to do it. Do you know what I'm saying?
I don't know what's the problem. What kind of question?
Hechrech means that he is doing something against its will.
Yeah.
But the nefesh has a consent. The nefesh decides, oh, this is what I should go. Let me translate the question a little bit. and become even more meaningful, okay? And we'll open up and we'll have a broader understanding of the whole thing of Hechech. We know that Avodas Hashem, right? Eden are called Avdei Hashem, Avodim. And we say that Kabbalah, that Avodas Hashem is Kabbalah soil, right? Kabbalah soil. What does it mean by Kabbalah soil?
You accept it, you don't want to do it, but you accept it.
You don't want to do it. Eden don't want to serve Hashem. Eden don't want to serve Hashem. Okay, but that's exactly what I'm asking. How? Yeah, but what does it mean, Kabbalah soil?
On a certain level, they don't want to do it. Deeper inside them, they want to do it, but on the external,
Deeper inside, they don't want to do
they
it.
do want to do it.
They do want to do
On
it.
the external, they don't want to do it. So they have to do. Isn't it Kabbalah also when you want to do it? You're still accepting the yoke. You're saying the yoke regardless.
So that's what I'm asking. If he wants to do it, and he understands, like even said by Matan, by Har Sinai, Nase v'Nishma, and they went willingly into this thing. Then you say, hey, the whole thing is Kabbalah soil, like a behemoth. I don't want to do it, and something is forcing me to do it. So what is the significance of this? Is Kabbalah soil really mean that I'm being dragged into it, kicking and screaming?
That's what Nasvinish means.
I'm sorry?
That's what Nasvinish means. We're doing it, and yeah, we want to do it, but if we didn't want to do it, we'd also do it.
Because?
Our decision in doing it is not based on if we want to do it or not. Because
Okay. Fine. Let me expose something. Let me explain to you something. The principle of Kabbalah soil. Kabbalah soil is an extremely rich concept. It's not the simple concept of saying, the Kabbalah oil, he's stupid, he doesn't know what he's doing. Kabbalah soil is an extremely rich concept. As a matter of fact, Kabbalah soil is the deepest connection that Ayid has with neighbors is in Kabbalah soil. The neshama comes down in the goof and says, behechrech. And yet, we recognize you can't be machriya the nefesh. The nefesh is where it wants to be. It cannot be where it's not be, but it's not. Like the Baal Shem Tov says, so if it wants to be there, in what way is it hech? Okay. And here is the principle of the Sinyan. There are things that a person, for instance, talk about a person on a simple level. There are things that one can relate to with his seichel. He completely comprehends the meaning of a certain thing. And he can relate to it with his heart and with his midas. So even though he is first learning about it, it's a new thing, but as he's learning about it, it makes sense to him. He can fully relate to it, and his seichel leads him to do it. This is called apitam v'das. He's doing things apitam v'das. Even though, clearly, tam v'das also means that he has to learn. And learning requires effort. It's not something that comes to him when he's lying in bed and stretch out, and doing nothing. He has to work and understand. But the understanding is something that he can really relate to. And his seichel can really absorb it, he can relate to it. And therefore, when he goes to it, he say that he is not jumping. He's not jumping across a lake. He is walking step by step, because he relates to what he's doing. Then there is something that a person recognizes as the truth. And this is definitely something that he must go to. But he cannot understand it. It is greater than his seichel. It is not something that lends itself to be understood. Okay. In our world, we have two levels that we recognize, we can understand Elokus. One is we see the world, and seeing the world, even though we only see the world, but the world itself says, I didn't make myself. It has to come from someplace. The world doesn't make itself. Adover Gashmi doesn't make itself. So this is not knowing Elokus directly. This is knowing Elokus indirectly. I know that this world is not the truth. Knowing that this world is not the truth, this I can understand that bitam v'das. But what is Elokus, what the truth is, I cannot understand. Can we understand what Elokus is? So knowing that the world does not make itself, and that's not the truth, this does not automatically make me to Elokus.
It's not automatically as well.
Relate me to Elokus, because it doesn't make me know what Elokus is. I know that the world is not the truth, but it doesn't make me know what Elokus is. Okay. In order to do Avodas Hashem, in order to daven, you have to relate directly to Elokus, to Meibashter. It cannot be you daven because the world didn't make itself. You have to have a direct line. You have to relate directly to it. And to relate directly to Meibashter, to Hashem, we don't know what Hashem is. I've never seen it. So how does that actually relate to me? It relates to me in this fashion. I know that's the truth. I cannot understand it. But I take a leap and I go out beyond my understanding because I want to relate to that truth, even though I cannot understand it. So no matter how much I want it, it will always be Kabbalah Soil. It's never going to change. Kabbalah Soil does not mean it's against my will. Kabbalah Soil means it's beyond my understanding. The only way for me to relate to it is by accepting it. In my understanding, I can only know that the world is not true. But what the truth is, I don't know. The only way for me to really relate to it is by recognizing if the world is not true, there has to be a truth, and therefore I'm relating to that truth. I don't know how to define it, but there has to be a truth. And this upset that no matter how much I want it, it still remains Kabbalah Soil because I don't grasp it. Which means in effect, I have to force myself. Which means force myself? Not force myself against my will. Force myself against my seichel. Because my seichel wants to understand and it's not capable. So therefore, I force myself to accept it. The similar name, say the neshama is machriach. What means machriach? Machriach means, as I said, there's no such thing as machriach. It's putting the neshama in a place. It means that the neshama recognizes in the guf something that it cannot understand. It's greater than the neshama. It's greater than the shoyresh neshama. and it can only get to, it can only have that greatness by attaching itself to a goof. On its own, say, oh, I see such a greatness, maybe I can also understand it myself. No way. You can look at it and see it, and you will not, it's never, you can never relate to it yourself. Because it's higher than your own shadish. That's why it's called behech. And therefore, so we understand both things. We understand on the one hand, it's behechrich. On the other hand, it's the neshama recognizes the maila. It wants it. This recognition of a greater than itself, of an even greater than itself, is what's machriach the neshama. So no matter how much it understands that this is a greater thing than itself, and how much it much it understands that this is really a great thing to get to, it's always going to be a hechach. Because it really is beyond its comprehension. It's greater than the neshama itself is.
You said in last year it's the goof that's machriach in that.
Yeah, that's what we're getting to. Right. Okay, what is it that the nefesh sees that makes it go down? It sees that we're going to see now, and we learned already, the mila from the goof. Okay, and this is at the end of this line, chai. Like at the end of this line, right? Akom hat chai. The masha nefesh chai b'tei haguf ba'al korche. The fact that the nefesh continues to live in the goof is ba'al korche. Sheloi lefi tiva yortzeinehu atzmi. Not by its nature. It's al korche, because it wants to go up. But umihu hamachrichoy. What forces it? The nefesh. Zeho haguf. What forces the nefesh? It's the goof. How is the goof forcing the nefesh? The lefi she'shoyresh u'moker haguf. Hu l'mayla meha nefesh. Because that the shoyresh of the goof, is higher than a nefesh. This is why, I just want to finish in before we go later, that this is why the nefesh is drawn to the goof. Because it knows that this inyan it cannot ever accomplish on its own. Only by being in the goof. And going against its nature. Okay. Ukiodua, as we know, the nefesh, as it is known, the nefesh, shorshe mebchinas memale kol alma. The shoyresh of the nefesh is mibchinas, is from that level in Olokut that's called memale kol alma. Memale kol alma means that Olokut that fills all worlds. Avol haguf, but the guf shorshe meirisav haseviv kolal. The shoresh of the guf is the irisav haseviv kolal. What is the inyan briefly? Memale kolam and haseviv kolal. Memale means it fills the worlds. Seviv means it surrounds the worlds. What is the concept of memale and seviv? Everything in the world, absolutely everything in the world, in order for it to exist in the world, it has to have an aspect of godliness that it represents. There cannot be anything in the world that does not have some kind of a godly message to it. This is called memale kolam. Memale kolam means that the Elokus is everywhere. What's meant everywhere? Not that it's found everywhere. It is within everything, at every level. And this is what makes all the details, all the aspects in the world exist. This is called Memale Kol Almin. Soiver Kol Almin means the Elokus as Elokus is unto itself. Not how Elokus manifests and expresses itself to the world, through the various entities in the world, but how Elokus is unto itself. It's called Soiver Kol Almin. It surrounds all the world. It's above the world. Right.
Why would it be different than the Elokus as it is unto itself? Just this way is not inside, and this is like, why would they be different?
The difference is that Memale Kol Almin is where Elokus was nitzamtzem, limited to be expressing a specific inyan, like Chochmah, Bin, and Das. Soiver Kol Almin is Elokus is unto itself, which means in the general inyan of Elokus, which is all-encompassing.
So you should say that the Memale Kol Almin is what provides the existence of this world, but not necessarily the soil. I mean, from this explanation that you gave, right?
Well, in everything, in everywhere there is Memale and Soiver. Okay? When you say existence of this world, in existence of the world there are also two aspects. There's a general inyan the world exists, and there is the specific inyan what exists. What exists, that's Memale Kol Almin. That it exists is Soiver Kol Almin. You with me, Yaina? The nefesh is Shoshim Memale Kol Almin. Memale Kol Almin, I'd like you to have a feel for these words, even though we'll still come back to it. What does it mean? The nefesh is Shoshim Memale Kol Almin. The nefesh, everything that the nefesh experiences, everything that is true to the nefesh can readily identify. It actually experiences it. There is Chochmah, there is Bina, there is Das. Which means that the nefesh recognizes every detail of the inyanim of what it understands.
He recognizes
Every detail. This is Pshat. The nefesh is mushrish in Memale Kol Almin. Just like in a person. In a person there is seichel and midas, and then there is the fact that there is a person here. Life itself, which is not measured by his seichel and midas, how much he knows, how much he feels, how much he recognizes, how smart he is. In terms of how smart he is, there are very vast differences between one person and another. And there, in Seichel, there are all kinds of definitions, all kinds of details. Everything in Seichel comes in detail. And you say, okay, I can relate to it fully, I understand what it is. That's Seichel. Then there is the Etzem person, the very essence of the person himself, which really supersedes the Seichel and Midas. Like we say, that a living person, can we measure the value of a living person by how much wisdom he's going to produce? We can measure it. It's beyond any measure. The nefesh is all mamale. The nefesh is entirely sensitive to the seichel, to the union that it understands, that it relates to. That's nefesh. The guf is shorshe mi'eseiriso aseir kulal. It's not sensitive to anything in specific. It's just there. So Lamata it comes out very low, but Lamailo it is a much higher.
What do you mean by wisdom? You can't measure its wisdom, so what's the point? So what?
I'm showing that in a person also there are two madregas. There is that which is measurable in terms of his capacity for seichel and midas. And then there is that which is not measured by that at all. This is like the memale and the soiviv in the person himself.
Not go from the nefesh. Just within the nefesh is the mal and service.
No, the nefesh per se, the nefesh is shorsho ben memale. Nefesh is all sensitive to every detail.
So the fact that you can't measure its wisdom, that's more of a nefesh, that's more of a circle on concept.
No, you missed the point. Not that we can measure. We don't measure a person by how much wisdom he will accumulate. That's what I'm pointing. Wisdom is on a certain level, right? And these are the koiches of the person, the seichel and midas. Then there is a person himself. The person himself, the value of a person is not measured by how much wisdom he has.
Why not? More knowledgeable person, more respect than a person who's a garbage man.
Right. So that measure, that respect is when you speak in terms of respecting his wisdom. But when we talk about, let's say, the life of a person, you say that the life of a person is valued because of his wisdom. If he has wisdom, his life is valuable. If he doesn't have wisdom, his life is not valuable.
If he produces life, he's valuable life. You didn't think. If he did something in his life, he's a valuable life. If not, it's a waste. And the Seichel, his religious, whatever his contribution is.
Okay. I'm going to explain to you exactly the setting I'm talking about. A person is in danger. His life is in danger. Let's say there is a deen that you can, on Shabbos, you can chal Shabbos for pikuach nefesh. Pikuach nefesh decha Shabbos. Right? Somebody is mamish in danger, pikuach nefesh. Is there a difference what type of person he is, whether you're allowed to know chal Shabbos or not? Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Every Jew is a Jew, no matter what it is.
Yeah, there's no difference. The nefesh relates to memale kulam. You wanted to ask something?
Yeah, as nefesh by the outside, but upstairs also.
Yeah. Nefesh is rooted in memale kulam.
It's kind of like a seichel by the person.
Right.
In your
Right. It's expressed in terms of the seichel. There's.
But it could be more, but it doesn't matter. By us, in analogies.
That's right. It's like the seichel and midas, right?
Compared to the life itself.
Right.
Can you just expound a little what you meant when you said that the body does not relate to, the goof doesn't relate to detail, the nefesh relates to detail and the goof doesn't?
the goof per se represents a presence, not the sensitivity that it has, not the seichel and the midas. The goof is like a keli for the nefesh. Bechlal, I mean, I just wanted that we should have some touch to it because this is still going to be recurring and we'll have much better chance to really dig into this. But to understand this in the principle that the nefesh is shosim in malakol because the nefesh in fact is what's called pnimius. The nefesh seeks to understand and to know. And the goof is its union is just to be okay. And Shorsha is mi eres of asay v'kolam. It's rooted in the eres of asay v'kolam. Shal zen ne'emar. Al zen ne'emar, for this it says, regarding this inyan of the goof, it says, Koil asher chofetz havayeh osa. Koil asher chofetz havayeh osa. Everything that Hashem chofetz, what's in chofetz? He willed, he wants. How this is in contrast to that which Hashem's wisdom recognized. One thing is higher than what than we say than what is mitzad haseichel. The asiya, which this pasuk is telling us, that where is the chayfetz havayim, where is the rotzin, which is higher than seichel, represented is an asiya. Asiya mi bechinas chayfetz v'rotzin havayim dafki. Asiya, this lowest level of the goof, which is asiya, this is representative and it is rooted in chayfetz v'rotzin Hashem, not in the seichel, not in chochmah and bina, but in chayfetz v'rotzin. וכמי שכוסו בדיבנה מסו בימה שמיני עצרס דתוף קופאים בייס. וביורי ובדעתי לסניח תנישון לסיים. Okay. And this is discussed in those Maimorim. V'lochein, and therefore, mitzad shorshei hakodum, because of the earlier shoresh of the goof, harei hu machriach es ha-nefesh. So the goof forces the nefesh, hepech tivoi, that the nefesh should act contrary to its nature. Leired velimshach lahachis es aguf, to descend and to come down, to be drawn to lahachis es aguf, to be mechaya the guf.
So the nefesh is more like a visitor in this world, while the guf is a real asiyah. Nefesh is not real asiyah.
Right.
But that nefesh symbolizes Malachal Amin. Is Malachal Amin the real what asiyah is?
Ultimately, Asiya is from Sefer Kolam. That's why ultimately the real Gila Lakus is going to be here. Right? Ikir Shechina B'Tachtonim Mois.
So Malachal Amin in a sense is in a higher world than Sefer Kolam. Okay.
Right. For this reason, we can observe the following. That if there is any kind of blemish, any kind of damage, chas v'sholem, in some part of the body, in some limb, and thus the oir hanefesh, the light of the nefesh, is removed from that limb. והנה, כשמסכנין אחר כך את הקלקול, when you fix thereafter as הקלקול, this damage, נמשך אויר הנפש ממילא. The oir hanefesh is drawn automatically. Ve'ein tzorich eze pe'ula. And there is no need for any particular activity, special activity, lahamshich oir hanefesh, to draw the oir hanefesh. Ki im nimshach memela. The oir hanefesh is drawn automatically into that aver. One more piece and then we'll talk about it. V'hainu, and that is lefi sheivore haguf machrichim. It is because the ivorim of the guf machrichim, they force, or mamshichim oir hanefesh, they actually draw the oir hanefesh into them. Okay, we don't have much time to get into this, but just very briefly, this thing that there is a kilkul in an aver, in every aver, there are two levels of chayas in the aver. There is the basic level of chayas that it's alive, and the other is the particular koyach, the particular function of the aver. When there's a kilkul in the aver, when there's some kind of a damage, what is lost? The functionality of the aver. We're not talking about losing the chayas in the aver, but he is not able to function. So therefore the functionality, the functioning koyach of the aver is removed, and therefore the chayas hanefesh, the oir, that's called oir hanefesh, is removed from that aver. When you fix the aver, this oir automatically returns back to the nefesh, to the aver. You don't have to draw this oir. The reason is because this oir seeks out this oir aver. And the Mitzvah Shem will be back. Okay, so we know where we are. I don't know what happened here.